Good morning, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. Joining me on the board today is Justin. Justin, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Wade. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Sir?
I'm doing good. I know Mike is he's on vacation again to parts unknown, and you were in second place for the weekly cage match this week behind Mike, so you get to be on the board. So Justin, I've heard rumors about you that you are not only a fantastic board operator, but you're almost a sports genius in some way.
I mean, I don't like to throw out the term genius because, you know.
I will. You're a genius. All right.
Appreciate that.
Did you watch the Warriors game last night at all?
I was at work last night, so I didn't get to watch any of the games. I tried to pay attention a little bit as much as I could.
I heard a rumor you were at the Clippers game last week, though.
I was at the Clippers game.
Yes,
I was at that on Friday, and that was crazy because, like I was just telling you before we got on air, I never thought in my lifetime that I was going to be privy to an Austin Rivers chant in the playoffs.
Crazy, I know.
But my problem with the Clippers, still the Clippers fans, not the Clippers. It was pretty subdued in there. It was not very lively. Like I would expect a Lakers playoff game to just the entire Staples Center arena to just constantly be insane, and it just wasn't really the feeling of. We're in Game 3 of a playoff series in the semifinals of the Western Conference, and this is intense.
Well, it was all lattes and naps in there apparently.
Yeah.
So, well, we can cross the Austin Rivers chant off there. Thank you so much. And today we're going to be talking about on Wade Beyond the Courtroom is how to change misperceptions of people that they may have about the job that you do. So, joining me today in studio is Stefan Christensen. Stefan, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Wade?
I'm doing good. Now, Stefan and I would call you my friend. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that we met in an interesting way, is Stefan actually sold me a car, if you can believe it. And so we were joking around. We said we wanted to, we became friends through that process, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. And, I'm a criminal defense attorney. Stefan, he sells cars. So fair to say that, would you say, Stefan, that people have a preconception about those careers?
Absolutely.
Right. So now when you were, who do you work for? You work where?
Galpin Honda.
Galpin Honda where?
Galpin Honda in Mission Hills.
Mission Hills.
Yep.
Okay. I actually knew that because that's where I bought the car. But So you deal with a lot of people during the day, right?
Tons.
Okay.
Tons of people.
And is it fair to say that they all have differing perceptions of the process when they start to talk to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So give me some examples. What do people come to you with? What kind of perceptions?
It's pretty general. So there'll be some people who have the misconception that, all right, I'm going to come in and we're going to talk for 10 minutes, and then in 30 minutes I'll be leaving home with a car.
Okay.
That's one misconception that you got to deal with.
But you like those people, though.
Sometimes they're pleasantly surprised because they get to hang out with me so much.
That's right, and that was my experience too. So okay, perfect.
Another common misconception, and this is one that's kind of a little more touchy, is instantaneously. It feels like you can tell the customer doesn't think that you're a trustworthy person.
Right, and that's because of the job that you have.
Exactly.
And it was so funny because, I experience that as an attorney sometimes, and we joke around, and everybody, they say, oh, man, like, you can't trust car salespeople, or you can't trust attorneys, except for, they always have a guy, except for my guy. They're like, I love my attorney, or you got to talk to my car guy, so you're now my car guy. So anybody comes to me and is like, oh, man, you got to talk to Stefan. But before that, actually, I can be honest with you, when my wife and I walked in there, we had our armor on. We're like, what's going to happen, And Stefan came out to us and he was like, hey, what are you guys doing? I don't even think you asked if we were looking for a car. You're like, what's up? And I was like, hey, I didn't know you worked there, except for the blue shirt, I guess, kind of threw it off.
Yeah, helpful Honda guy. You got to have the appearance.
Well, I thought you were going to I thought you were going to help me like change the oil in my existing car or something.
It was on the table. I was going to offer that and go to your house to change the light bulbs
and do my taxes. So
yeah, exactly.
Good. So let's talk a little bit about some of the techniques that we can use or that you use. What's the first thing that you want to accomplish when you're meeting a new person?
The first thing is be incredibly nice.
Okay.
Incredibly nice.
So that must be a huge challenge for you.
It's terrible. I really hate people.
I can tell, yes. Well, Stefan's from Iowa, and so I'm from North Dakota originally. So as a Midwestern Plains guy, and you being a Midwestern guy, actually there's some good people out there. Almost everyone out there is nice from my experience at least. So you're starting with a positive factor for you. So, and I find that for myself as well. When people come to me and they call me up and they say, "Hey, Wade, I've got a problem." one, they're a little stressed out because it's a stressful process, much like buying a car is a stressful process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then two, the second issue is that they have a preconception of me from the movies. So there are lots of movies about selling cars. I don't know if you saw there's a car with Kurt Russell, movie with cars from Kurt Russell in it from literally like the 1980s. So probably before the two of you were born.
Outdating.
Right, exactly. Hey, there's a little old man creeping into me right now. Sometimes I really the statement "get off my lawn" wants to come shouting out of me, but it's not. So, I find that almost everyone that comes to you is through a preconception. I would assume. Yeah. Unless they come to you as through a referral, right?
Well, even the referrals.
Really?
Surprisingly enough, because unless they personally met me, I mean, they don't really know me very well.
Well, no, and that makes sense too. And buying a car can be intimidating. Gallup Honda, for instance, I don't know if you guys have been down there. It's a giant complex down there. They've got every single car you could possibly want. It's crazy. But the actual building itself, I felt like I was going into a sports arena, like going to a Clippers game or something. So, well, listen, when we come back from the break, we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the process that you will go through to get from, hey, you're a shiesty car salesperson or lawyer, to, hey, let's have you on my radio show because you're my friend now. All right? So when we come back, you're listening to Santa Clarita Hometown Station, AM 1220, KHTS. I am Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. Welcome back, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. I am attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. Now, before we go on, I'm cracking up. We came in from the break that spot with about Mother's Day.
Mom.
It is Mom. It is Mother's Day.
Stewie.
So I'd like to give everyone in the room the opportunity to thank their mother or wish them a happy Mother's Day. Go ahead, Justin.
Mom, I spent a lot of money on this perfume. Yeah, I know you're not listening now, but when I give it to you, I really hope you like it.
Nice.
I love you.
Nice.
And Mom, happy Mother's Day. Hope it's a great one. I don't know if she's listening out in Iowa, but I'm sure she'll check out the YouTube channel and give it a watch.
Yes, and I would wish my own mother a happy Mother's Day. I hope she enjoys the gift that we sent her. It's going to be a day late. So, but I will call her today and inform her of that. Now, all right, so we were talking a little bit about how do you deal with misperceptions of your job, because look, everybody has a job that somebody has a perception about. Can I be more vague with that statement? But let's take if you sell cars, for instance. Now, when my wife and I came in to buy a car, we didn't know you previously.
Nope.
I know that most of my clients that I like to get through referrals, but sometimes I do get clients that they just find me. And so the one thing I felt that you did that worked really, really well is that we had a lot of questions, and you never seemed upset or irritated, and you never even really seemed to try to push us in a general direction. Is that something that you try to do on purpose?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Just going out of your way just to keep people happy, give them what they really want, and make what they want work.
We had a funny experience. So there was a car that was very similar to what we had talked about that we wanted. The only thing about it, everything about it was great. The inside was great. The price was great. Everything we liked, everything about it, whatever. Except for it had this decal stripe that went down the left side of it.
Beautiful streak across the whole thing.
If you would have said that then, I would have been like, "Oh, we're taking off. This guy's trying to get." It was so funny. And you said something. It was so funny is that you said something to me. You're like, "Listen," you said, "if you take this car home, and it has that stripe, and you try to make yourself like it, you're not going to like it, and you're not going to like me." And I was like, I don't like you very much right now with this trying to sell me this car stripe. No, I'm joking. But I think it's so important to understand is that when you're dealing with a misperception, is you have to get people to like and trust you first, genuinely. All right. Dave Ramsey says, I don't know if you're familiar with who that is, but he has a saying. He says, you want to have the heart of a teacher, not the heart of a salesperson. And I really felt, you in that process guided us through that process with the heart of a teacher, not the heart of a salesperson, because a salesperson would say something like, well, what can we do to make you like that stripe, or something like that?
Will the right price make that stripe disappear?
That's right. And no price will make that stripe disappear, because I don't think you don't control the universe, do you?
I try not to.
Okay. So, and that I think is a really good technique at first. Is like, look, you just have to realize that you are not going to be able to guide anyone in any direction in your job if they have a misperception about your job until you sort of break down and dissolve that misperception. And sometimes it may take more than. I mean, that's not something that may happen just at one appointment, right?
No, it's going to happen over time, and just continually going above and beyond.
Well, you had said that that people will come in with a misperception that they're going to get a car and leave in 30 minutes, right? And you kind of joked that doesn't happen. Why doesn't that happen with you when you deal with your potential customers?
There's multiple reasons why that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
One, because signing paperwork alone takes about an hour and 15 minutes just to legally sign the documents.
Right.
So there is no physical way. And then aside from cleaning the car, getting a full tank of gas, because you don't want to buy a dirty car off the front line.
Right, of course.
And really, you want it to be clean and in great shape. So there's little things that do take time, and at least coaching someone to where when they do come in, if they have that misperception, it's taken care of at the beginning rather than someone being angry at the end.
Well, yeah, because that, in terms of the sales process, in terms of everything is a sales process. I mean, if you're married, then you've been a salesperson in some fashion, right? And I met your wife this morning, Katrina.
Yeah.
It's very nice, so super nice. You are an excellent at this process of convincing people to go into collaboration with you. How's that, should I say?
Thank you.
Now, you actually have a really interesting background, Stefan. You didn't start out in the car business. What did you do before the car business?
Before I worked in the car business, I was actually a youth pastor for 3 years. Worked in a small town in Wyoming.
Okay.
So really enjoyed it out there, and I moved out to LA to work on my master's degree to keep working in churches as a pastor. While I was doing that and kind of preparing that, decided to get married to my beautiful bride, Katrina, who you met this morning, and found out that women are really expensive. And if you want to treat them right.
Oh, somebody's sleeping on the couch tonight.
No, but in that time just found out, how expensive it is just living out here. So I switched into sales for a short time.
Right.
And that transition was actually kind of a funny thing. I asked my dad before I did it, switching into sales, and his first question, which is pretty, goes along with what we're talking about here, was, how in the world are you going to do that and still have a conscience?
Right. Now I've had people ask, I'm a criminal defense attorney, as you know, and I've had people ask that question to me, and I always laugh because when I was a prosecutor, in my mind, when I started, I was young, I was 25, and I said I could never be a criminal defense attorney because I had a perception of it. And then once I was in the system for a while, and I really found out that, look, you can have a conscience and work in this business if you approach it as the heart of a teacher and you put your clients first and you realize that everyone makes a mistake. And so, my clients are normal people who get in trouble, and that's sort of that's very easy for me to keep a conscience. When I helped a young lady keep her citizenship a week and a half ago because we were able to work out a situation. That's very rewarding. Yeah. And in your job, it's rewarding, I would think, because people have a lot of fear when they come in, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of unknowns.
Right.
Generally it's not fears because of things that have happened, but it's fears of things that could happen.
Right.
That's the big fear.
And, do you find that your experience as a pastor or training to be a pastor and being a youth minister, does that help you in your profession now?
Absolutely.
How so?
Really what it does is with a lot of different customers, it develops a common bond. Whether it's on religion oftentimes. If someone finds out that I'm a Christian, it's something it's soothing almost.
Right.
To say, all right, someone that I can at least, outside of their profession, I can trust them as a person.
And that's really good in terms of a second, we talked about, the first thing we talked about is just take the time, get them to answer their questions. The second issue is, find that common ground. Because look, you may have I've had people that have come into my profession that have a misperception of attorneys, and we had no common ground. So it was very difficult for me to be able to start to overcome that perception. So what you're telling me, I guess, in other words, is that if you find yourself in that situation, try to find whatever commonality you can between you and the person that you're talking to. Just so that you can start to actually hear each other. Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
Very fair.
It's clearly that's got to be one of the most important things, right? If you're able to find a common bond with someone, you're able to make that human connection, and then that's where trust is built.
Well, and it's funny, everybody does this. Now, they may not do it in their profession, but everyone does this. You and I just did it at the beginning of the show. We've never worked together, and we started talking sports, right? Yeah. Justin's like, well, Wade can't be all bad. He actually knows who the Splash Brothers are. So, so you start to develop that rapport. The women, they do it when they talk about, they'll talk about their kids, or they'll talk about clothes, and so everyone does it. We all have this innate skill to be able to do that. I find, though, that it's much easier, and you don't get confused if you start to do it on purpose. And that's all you're doing. Is there's a saying, and I can't remember off the top of my head about well, you know what? We're going to go to break right now, and I'm going to have a great saying for you when we come back. So this is Attorney Wade Skalsky. You are listening to Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back, Santa Clarita. You're listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I am Attorney Wade Skalsky, and this is Wade Beyond the Courtroom. So we're talking about how you can overcome misperceptions about your profession. And frankly, you can actually do this with just your normal self as well. If someone has a perception of you that's just simply not true, you can sort of approach them in this way first. We talked about step one, that you simply give them a space to learn what it is that their perception is, to listen to them. Step two, we talked about regards to, I just blanked out on step two. No, what was step two?
We were talking about that's when you make the common bond.
Oh, that's right. It's common ground. I just had an old man moment there, right, where I was thinking about brunch today. Okay.
You got me and Stefan both to freeze. Like,
I know. Well, what I like to do on occasion is put people on the spot just to check if even my in-studio audience is listening. And you guys are like, oh, man, we were thinking about brunch as well. So step two is common ground. And then step three we're going to talk about really is that not to view people as a customer, but really to view them just first as a person. That's what the common ground does. Mm-hmm. And then to turn them into a friend. And it was so funny that Stefan, when you did that, you hand out some literature about your Yelp reviews and things like that, and really it's your goal really is to turn people into friends, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's your personality. You seem to be a people person.
If I wasn't around people, if I had a job where I didn't directly interact with customers, I would be miserable.
Yeah, and I think that's another really good point too, is that if you are miserable in your job, that maybe you will feed into that misperception that people have about it. So if you were a salesperson just because you're like, well, I want to do that just to pay the bills, but I don't like people, maybe that's not such a great strategy.
Yep, you're just gonna amplify what people already think of a lot of salespeople just because of that.
And I mean, we had a really long interaction, and then I think you were energized by the entire interaction. I think it also helps that you're young and spry. Right?
Yeah.
So right.
It helps.
But that's true. Is I like people. I'm an extroverted person. I like interacting with people, and I also get energized by dealing with them. And when you're in any kind of situation with someone that may have a negative perception about you, or that they may be giving you some resistance, I think that energy by liking people can actually be an asset. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think it's a huge thing. Because there are times where, I'm sure you work with a client for an extended period of time and you don't get the outcome that you liked.
Right.
And it didn't work out, but and working with that person, you still had an enjoyable experience. And that can be the very same for anyone in their profession or career. For me, I'll work with someone for a long time and say they don't buy a vehicle, but I enjoyed hanging out with them. They're good people.
And that's an excellent point as well, is like, look, I don't control the universe. And so sometimes, the outcomes that occur in my profession are a little bit different than what we would want, right? But if you treat a person as a human being from the beginning of the process, if you find a common ground with them, if you establish a relationship with them, they will trust you when you say, okay, look, this didn't work out. Here's why it didn't work out, but there's really nothing we could have done in this scenario. The saying that I was going to say is that if you have a job without aggravation, you don't have a job. Right, and that's because everything is a process.
Yep.
And in the marketplace, in the courtroom, everything is not controllable. And so, if you establish that foundation, then I think that goes really, really far to not only decreasing the misperception that people have, but if something does go wrong, then they give you a lot more give. Even in we don't need to go into what it was, but we had a little hiccup or two in terms of the car process that you and I went through, and because you had done such a good job of establishing the rapport and the relationship, I wasn't worried about it. I was like, okay, these things happen, and they'll fix it, and it got fixed immediately.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that if you don't go into that process with the heart of a teacher, or you don't go into that process trying to establish common ground, and really I think what we're talking about is just treating people like human beings, then you set yourself up for big time problems down the line.
Yeah, I think you actually, while you were buying the car, you asked a question, because you were there over 2 days, I think.
Yeah.
The first day, I'm pretty sure you asked, and you may not remember this, how many people don't buy a car, leave, and then come back? What's that percentage? I think that was one of your questions. And my answer, I don't know if you remember this, my answer was, they're never coming back.
Right.
Which is an interesting thing just to remember, that even if someone doesn't come back, you want to treat them right to where they want to. And just make them at least like you.
And that's really interesting, because we left that day, and it didn't work out for us because of the infamous striped car was the car that we had ended up.
The striped car.
That's right. It's like we didn't
stripe.
like the stripe on that car, and my wife. It was so funny. I just looked at my wife and I said, "Is there any way that you can overcome this stripe?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Neither can I." And we went to, and I was so expecting. That's right. I was so expecting you to. I don't know what I was expecting, but you're like, cool, let's find something else. I said, well, the store is closing, so we'll come back tomorrow. So I think what you just said is critical, because if you have in your mind that I'm never going to see these people ever again if they leave, and you did it in an interesting way, in a reverse way. Most people interpret that as, well, I have to close them now. I have to high pressure salesperson them. You actually take the exact opposite approach, and you say, okay, I'm never going to see these people again, so I'm going to make sure whatever interaction I have with them is positive. Is that fair to say?
Very fair.
So, listen, man, I've really enjoyed having you in today.
Thank you.
Would you become the official car correspondent for Wade Beyond the Courtroom?
That would be an honor. I'd love that.
Perfect, because I don't know anything about cars.
Neither do I.
That's why. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's why our interaction was 8 hours and hours and hours. When I was like, Stefan, does this stripe help aerodynamics? You're like, no, it's just aesthetic. So, thank you so much for coming in. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
The best way to find me is just to walk into Galpin Honda and say, hey, I'm here to see Stefan.
And which Galpin Honda?
That's Galpin Honda in Mission Hills.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with the Galpin franchise, we've got Ford, Mazda, Subaru, Lincoln, Aston Martin. If you want an Aston Martin, I haven't sold one yet, so please call me.
But most importantly, though, of all those cars, their most important asset is Stefan. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed having you in today. You've been listening to Wade Beyond the Courtroom. I am attorney Wade Skalsky. This is your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Stay safe, Santa Clarita, and we'll talk soon.